Everybody, we are here. It is another show match coming your way for the and very highly anticipated World Cup. We have Team Greece, the Trojan Horses, versus Team Turkey, and it's gonna be a fun little match on deck for you guys. Honestly, one of my favorite rosters we have seen today is Team Greece and Team Turkey. So to see them go head to head with each other today, Rain, I'm more than excited to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get to watch this one as well. Of course, Greece and Turkey have also had show matches in the past, so if you guys have been following along, you're probably familiar with some of these players. And also both of these teams having some pretty well-known names in the scene, including Turkey, of course, having Lethal from SSG, and then Greece having some players that you and I are familiar with, Mott, coming from that Calling All Heroes scene in Tycho and Alex TFM. So I'm super excited to get to watch these two teams go up against each other today.
No, absolutely. And on top of that, right, there's some of our very own Face It players also playing and repping Team Turkey. Notably, Dirt Gaming is also in the roster here. Again, it's a really fun thing to see some players from so many different areas of competitive esports, competitive Overwatch, calling out heroes, of course, OWCS with SSG, the Face It Tier 2 scene, and they're all just here to rep their countries, rep their people, and just kind of give us a good time, right? So with that being said, let's talk about, I guess we can start talking about the first map we're going to see here. As you can see, the background is Ilios. What that is going to be, what we're going to see is not exactly going to be, where we're going to go. We're going to go Oasis instead. A little good middle ground between Team Turkey and Team Greece here.
Yeah, excited to get into it. Of course, we will be starting on a control map. This is going to be a best of 5, so that first to 3 as per the usual. So, of course, we'll get started on control, and after that, it will be the losing team that will get to pick the map and the mode that we go to. And I believe we are not locked in on a map pool here, so we could see pretty
Yep.
much just about anything, as both of these teams are looking to play in that conference cup that is coming up in just a couple more weeks. So trying to get all of these show matches in to really kind of hype up everybody to get excited for that Europe conference cup.
Yes, very, very excited to get into the Europe Conference Cup. And yes, you're completely right. Everything it's a free for all. I mean, I've seen some matches where they actually repeat maps and repeat map types more specifically, just whenever they really want to. So with that in mind, let's talk about I believe the upcoming bans are still, of course, going to be played here. So we can talk about that for a little bit as well. The opportunity for Team Greece and Team Turkey to set the field a little bit here and really decide what do we want to ban out on something like Oasis. When we're talking about Oasis, you can see a plethora of different options, but you and I both know D.Va, I think, is kind of at the forefront of a lot of people's minds here. She has really come out of the limelight, or has come into the limelight more correctly, and really started to overtake that preferred tank position and role, really. So with that being said, could be seeing a D.Va ban, could be seeing a Zarya ban to allow the D.Va to have more free reign here. Again, if we're thinking about possibly a tank ban first from either of our rosters.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do think that the D.Va ban could be very impactful on Oasis. Of course, when we go into University sub-map, that's when maybe not necessarily going to be as strong, where it's a little bit smaller of a point. There's not as much kind of noticeable high ground to control with D.Va. But yeah, definitely has found her way into the meta. Cabby for Turkey has a really strong D.Va. And like you mentioned, Dirt also playing on Turkey. So you have kind of this flexibility of moving one tank in for the other. Maybe you really want to play a Roadhog, but Greece is going to take that out of the map for Oasis. So Dirt not going to be able to play that signature hero for this one.
Yes, but even though Dirt is very much revered for this Roadhog, which unfortunately has been banned out by Team Greece, he has shown promise on things like Sigma, for example, whether it's in Face It games or just in the regular scrim environment. So there's a little bit of variation. Of course, being a Roadhog main, of course, he knows how to play a good portion of the roster if need be. On the side of Turkey, though, this means that they are locked to a DPS or support ban. I'm assuming we're kind of going by OWCS rules in this case. So we have either some sort of DPS. I think something that can be seen here is maybe an Emre ban, a Symmetra ban, maybe even a Sojourn ban. All three are pretty solid options when it comes to not just like how strong a DPS can play, but also thinking into the effect of we're on control. Do we really want to play with a Symmetra who can hunker down the objective, have the 3 turrets up, and then kind of run rampant when she's at high charge? No, I don't want to deal with that either at at the same time, on that note, right, you can also kind of pivot towards a support ban, an early support ban as well. A Lucio can also really inhibit some sort of brawl that we might be seeing from Team Greece. We can also go for something a little bit more targeted to some of the backliners, right? Taiko, for example, you and I both know her from Kongon Heroes, a fantastic Ana, Brig, Kiriko player. Plays anything under the sun, really, if she puts her mind to it. So that can also be a really good target for Turkey if they know the other roster pretty well as we do.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? And that's the thing about going for these support bans is that you got to be careful because, the Lucio Kiriko pretty strong and it's not going to be a support ban. Turkey's going to opt instead for that Sojourn ban. So, two pretty, I think, a targeted ban onto Dirt, and then of course Sojourn just pretty strong in the meta right now. But you kind of gave a little shout out earlier. Emre is still going to be very, very strong.
Oh,
Lethal has
yes.
shown a very, very lethal Emre, so I definitely do think that Turkey could make that pivot fairly easily. So taking the Sojourn off the board here, not going to hurt themselves too much.
No, for sure. I think the soldier ban is really a safe ban at the end of the day. I think using that game one ban to kind of go for something more safe is really honestly a smart option, and then you can get a lot more pointed, a lot more direct with your bans as we get into the rest of the maps here in this. I'm assuming best of five. I'm pretty sure we want to have these players play as long as humanly possible. But as we say, here we go, going on Oasis. Characters are starting to get or players starting to get into these lobbies, and I want to see what we're gonna run out with initially, right? Backline, you and I both have expected the Kiriko and the Lucio extremely strong backline for pretty much forever. A small little hiccup, with Juno Brig like a year ago, 2 years ago, has been, dissipated very effectively by that Juno and that Lucio, or Juno Lucio, sorry, Kiriko and Lucio. On the other end, though, the tanks looking like they might actually opt for our favorite Scottish hero. We're gonna be seeing the Hazard, possibly.
This is really fun. Yeah, Mormor was briefly on that Diva, but did make the swap over onto the Hazard. So we're going to get
A mirror match here as both the DPS going over on to that Tracer and the Emre here. Excited to see this. Alex has been playing a lot of that Tracer, so it's nice to see him pivot over onto the Emre. So if he's going to be Turkey and Greece kind of fighting for control of this high ground first as we head to Gardens.
Oh, look how Lethal is kind of keeping tabs onto Alex, onto Gelly as well from Team Greece, and Dirk comes down to elimination onto 4-0 Alex, giving a 1-up advantage here for Team Turkey here. However, Team Greece needs to start to maybe make their way around towards an exit of some points, leaving the point all alone, but Mormor is not letting up. Ermac taken down early, then you get a reversal pick onto Taiko, the Kiriko from Team Greece, and that's going to be the roll on through for the side of Team Turkey. We're going to call for a quick pause here from Team Greece, but it was going to be activated after the fight is officially over.
Yeah, and I mean, Flatix just did a fantastic job on that Tracer, just kind of cleaning up the engagements. And you can see just how fast-paced Turkey really wants to play these fights, right? It's the engage in, they catch out Alex, and then it's immediate follow-up. Flatix is taking the angle kind of on that Tracer, making sure that as Greece is trying to back out of that fight, try and reset, they're just met with that Tracer kind of in their back line. So it is a pretty quick fight win here for the side of Turkey. So I don't think that either team really had the opportunity to really build up any ultimates, but I think that when it comes to these mirror matchups, it's so important to be kind of looking for those cooldowns, right? That's really going to be the difference here, is trying to force out a cooldown to go in for a quick hit. And I think that Greece still very much have the opportunity to pull themselves back into Oasis. We're just getting started on this first point, but they're going to have to kind of match this aggression and tempo that Turkey's putting out.
No, absolutely, and you can't also allow yourself to get comfortable realizing, hey, we got Dirt off of his favorite hero Roadhog, because he can play other characters. Trust me, that Hazard being the first one to get the elimination onto poor Alex, who is on that Emre, right? So it's a little bit of a wake up call for Greece here. Thankfully, it's early. The earlier you can wake up and realize what's going on, the better and faster you can start to adjust accordingly, right? So already 30% of the point in the favor of Turkey. They're coming up towards notably the override protocol as well as the pulse bomb from Flat, and with the rotation from Greece trying to go all the way around towards left side, you can see the Hazard from Mormor coming up on the middle ground here. But look at the separation of the DPS versus the tank. Mormor finds an elimination onto Lethal in the meantime, and Flat needs to back out. Couldn't even get the elimination onto Alex that we were looking for in the meantime, and this is gonna be the big flip here for Greece. They find the flip. Taiko gets a kill for herself onto Farouk, and now it's a matter of cleaning up the fight. Dirt goes for the attempt at a reset, but Alex steals the kill before that can even happen.
I like that from Greece. They make the rotation. Turkey tries to kind of match them to catch this rotation out, but it's an immediate pivot from Greece, and they end up splitting off Lethal. And I think that taking the M-Ray out of the equation is definitely a really good way to start out the fight. So much consistent damage can be put out by that hero. But Greece, they're going to have to commit one of these ults. I like this. Taiko's going to go first with that Kitsune Rush.
I love it, but also look how smartly Team Greece are playing underneath that kind of bridge area to avoid the override protocol. And then we engage with a sound barrier from Otters. Now, might be a little bit over aggressive, right? You saw Otters go all the way forward without the tank there to back up the team. So that's going to result in the side of Greece, the squishies of Greece, kind of walking and falling into Lethal's line of sight as well as Dirt's line of sight, and resulting in a very kind of late swap here. They are going to be able to overtake the percentage point at the very least, and they have 4 ultimates to combat Greece's 3.
Yeah, it was a fantastic disengage from Turkey. Taiko uses that Kitsune Rush. It covers pretty much the entire point, and then the aggressive beat from Otters. Turkey just back all the way up around that Mega Pack, and they don't have to use any ult in response. Starting out with a pick here on to Taiko. I don't even know if Turkey's going to have to commit either of these support ults to get into this.
Alex is gone. Alex kind of just got yeeted off the map in the midst of the engagement. They can't have that happen right now. 3/4 of the way to full point completion is Team Turkey, and they're still holding on to kills. They're still holding on to advantage in numbers. Losing out on Gelly there, not my favorite thing to happen, but you know what? It's a Tracer. They'll come back sooner rather than later. Greece still have options like the downpour coming in. The Suzu whiffs on Lethal. Irmak needs to use a Kitsune Rush just to help out the M-Ray, and the Sound Barrier is used as a response to the upcoming and use override protocol from Alex. But in the mess of the engagement, in the thick of the fight, we lose our Kiriko first from Taiko, and it's just Otters trying to come in for a last minute Hail Mary touch, and Hail Mary it is. Oh my goodness, they can't come in stagger long enough, and that's gonna be the first point going over to Team Turkey.
And just a lot of discipline being shown by Turkey. Even when they're finding kind of that first pick in the fight, it's not an all engage kind of rush to find the next one. They tempo themselves, they set up the angles so that they know that they're going to be able to get a next pick and not end up with a trade here. So great stuff from Turkey to pick up the first sub point of Oasis, but we will be heading over to downtown for the next point here. And I mean, Flatix on this Tracer, very deadly, and just did not die a single time in that Garden sub-map. So great start here for Turkey. Now, it is going to be a little bit different playstyle here on City Center, where you do have that high ground kind of around the middle of the point, but both teams are going to opt to still stick with this same composition. So it's going to be, once again, kind of a fight for this high ground to get control of the area before going for a cap on that point.
No, totally. And you can already see Turkey are kind of meeting Greece at the back end of things and retreating over to this aforementioned high ground that we've come to know and love a lot on downtown here. However, Greece are just kind of rotating around them, right? You can see both of the tanks here, both the hazards, playing on this pillar space in the center of the objective. We go around over. Dirt finds at least an opportunity to start going in for the dive, especially as we get another quick elimination here in the favor of Team Turkey. Gelly taken down by the Kiriko of all things. Irmak with a double whammy. Even more so, we're going to be able to stagger out some of these respawns as well for the side of Team Turkey. A little bit of back and forth between Taiko and Lethal, but ends up being a big win here for the side of Turkey once again.
Yeah, they're going to start building percentage, and it is a late kill onto Alex as well. So more time off the clock here as Greece is going to regroup, get ready. Turkey, all the while, they're always going for these setups. You can see that Flatix is already on the angle, has Irmak there to support him as well. And unfortunately for Greece, if they're not able to kind of match these flanks and clear them out, Turkey is just going to have full control of this map.
They absolutely are, right? But at the very least, you can find a way to kind of scout out flat IQs, which of course Gelly has done, and then you turn around, boom, there goes Flat. Not even able to get the Mega Pack actually in that moment, as unfortunate as that is. But it's great for Team Greece. They can start engaging onto somebody. Look at the peel from Dirt, though. You can see the engagement was happening onto Lethal. Dirt comes in for the swoop to save the maiden in the distress, if you will, and then you get bullied off the objective temporarily, right? They're waiting to stabilize. They have the Kitsune Rush here for this next engagement. This could completely fall into a big fight here. Pulsam goes crazy. Suzu gets used very defensively for the side of Team Turkey. Downpour comes in. It does find Lethal down, rooted in the midst of the engagement, but no one can follow up well enough. Double kill against the side of Team Grease, of course, followed up by the override protocol from Lethal, and this is going to end up being a very lethal fight to deal with if you are Team Grease. A very short-lived round flip there, but really good showing again for Team Turkey.
Yeah, it's just a great understanding to give the point away, regroup, get your ults ready to go. You engage with the Kitsune Rush from Ermac. Now, Grease importantly did not match that Kitsune Rush, so Tycho is going to have that to come into this next fight, plus a slew of other ultimates for Grease, just committing that downpour into things. So you have an opportunity now. It's just a matter of kind of finding the opening angles here. Unfortunately, losing Alex is not going to help.
No, it's not. As worst case is because Alex also has the override protocol himself, right? So we're still going to see Tycho engaged in the fight here with the Kitsune Rush. It does kind of leave out a little bit of a gap between the entryway and then the actual objective here. So it's a very quick kite away, but not if you're kind of looking down main at a Kiri in Kitsune Rush with the kunai headshot. That's the end of that Tracer. Tycho does get rooted, but the down barrier does come in. Otter's health pool goes all the way to 0, though, of course, saved in by the belt of Dirt. In the meantime, in order to kind of facilitate the loss of one of our heroes, we're going to use that override protocol in the meantime, and it's going to be resulting in a trade-off of both of the M-Rays here for either side. Now it comes down to, can we stabilize? Can we stay alive long enough? And with just Tycho, I think just Gelly and Otters on the field here, looking a little bit worse for where is the side of Team Grease. All they can do now, yet again, is stagger, 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 maybe hope for Mormor to come up into the fight, maybe with a downpour built up, but Alex can't get there either, and that's going to be a 2-0 victory here for Team Turkey, putting themselves up 1 point on the board.
Ooh, I'm Ermac just really coming alive at the end of that fight. So many headshots coming through from those kunai. Flatix did end up picking up 2 deaths in that point, but yeah, Turkey just looking very, very strong here on Oasis, and I think just really looking kind of put together as a team. Of course, they've been practicing. You have been preparing for this Conference Cup that's coming up, and I think that so far they're showing a very good kind of macro understanding of the way that this composition needs to be played, which is going to be so important in those mirror matchups because it really will come down to kind of the rotations. Are you able to catch out the opposing team when they're trying to make that, find that opening pick, and just showing kind of the discipline of backing up off a point, letting it flip over, and then coming back in? It's really, really hard to let that happen. You really have to kind of fight against all your instincts here. So it's a good, strong start here for Turkey in our show match.
It really is, right? It's such a, it was a really good first round here. And Turkey, excuse me, Team Greece had a lot of promise, right? There were a couple times where they actually got the flip, they got some good ultimates off, but I think the biggest thing is not being able to protect Alex on that M-Ray, and who is arguably, as you and I were talking about, one of the strongest, if not the strongest DPS in the game, and preferred DPS, his scan DPS at the moment for most of our pro teams, and tier 2, tier 3 level teams as well, you know? So to not be able to protect Alex in the engagement, also having to go up against Lethal at the exact same time, and who is getting a lot more protection, a lot more of that PO factor. Again, I harked on Dirt coming in to save the day and save the maiden in distress there in the midst of one of those engagements. We had to see the same thing from Team Greece to help out Alex a little bit more, because when Alex is able to actually play the game, he's able to get some pretty good headshots in, good amount of damage output, as well as keeping a good tab on the opposing Tracer more often than not, as we saw on that first round of Oasis. But it kind of started to devolve a little bit as it got more hectic and more chaotic, which means, okay, do we want to go somewhere that is a little bit less chaotic, maybe somewhere that doesn't really thrive on looking at all these different directions, maybe thriving more on a push or payload style map, maybe?
Yeah, payload maybe, right? In Circuit Royale, I mean, you're not going to have as many places to look if we go to that map, and that is going to be one of those maps where, like, escort maps with the long sight lines is where you're really putting all of your resources into your DPS players, really kind of hoping that they're going to be the ones to kind of carry through a lot of these fights. So I think that for Turkey, they're kind of already set up and ready to go for that, but Greece definitely can kind of put the resources in, right? It's about kind of clearing out these lanes first, because that's a lot of the issues that Alex was having, is that there was constantly kind of Flatix and Ermac on an angle on the Lucio, or on the Kiriko and the Tracer, pressuring out your DPS and also putting pressure onto Mormor at the same time. But no, it is maybe chaos ensuing here, as we are gonna head over to Surabasa for point number 2, or for map number 2.
Interesting, right? And I was just saying, like, maybe trying to cut out the hecticness, but also what I love about going from control over to Saravasa is you still have that same mindset. We gotta go to point A to point B to point C to point, hopefully point D and point E, right? I love that. That's why I do understand why so many teams like to go back and forth between control and Saravasa more often than not when given the opportunity. I will say we have a quick little substitution in play here, not for Team Greece. They're gonna continue to keep their 5 starting rosters, but for the side of Turkey, they're gonna take out Dirt for a little bit. They're gonna give Kabi some playtime on that tank role, and now we can start actually talking about the upcoming bans. Again, the previous series we had the Roadhog and the Sojourn ban from Team Greece and Team Turkey respectively. Now you gotta talk about, okay, what is another thing we can imagine here as we go into Saravasa?
I do think that having Cabby come in for Turkey does say to me that they're going to move over onto the Diva. Previously, in the show match versus Poland, that's why Cabby was playing more or less the entire time. So Greece maybe, oh no, they are going to actually go for that M-Ray ban. I do like it. Yeah, definitely had a hard time kind of matching that M-Ray from Lethal. But as we mentioned with the Sojourn ban that comes out, it's more or less just going to be probably a swap over onto the Sojourn now for Turkey in response.
Yeah, I can't even blame them as well to ban Emre. Again, he is very, very strong at the moment. He is just, he's doing everything. And I can't even get mad about it. The crazy part is I can never get mad about a really good Emre because he's so fun to play. Genuinely, really fun to play. He feels buttery smooth whenever I personally play him. I don't even play DPS. I'm just like, ooh, he feel kind of good. Ooh, so he's so strong. He's so fun to play. Can't even get mad about it. You gotta ban him out at the end of the day if you're not able to mirror the that M rate to that same level, right? So with that on the board here, we can talk about what Turkey wants to ban here. They're limited to either a tank or a support ban. There is no duplicated role bans, and it looks like, yeah, we're gonna take out the speed boost. We're gonna take out Lucio, kind of inhibiting the Kiriko Lucio backline that's been so popular for so long. Meaning, I'm excited to see if we're gonna default to a Kiri Wu Yang, if we're gonna go back to the Juno Brig. A lot of different options here for both sides.
Yeah, I'm interested to see this as well. Turkey, I did play Farouk on the Wuyong, so I know that they do have kind of a solid non-Kiri Lucio backline to work with here, but we kind of mentioned it, Tycho very flexible on not just those flex supports, but also able to play that Brig, and Otters, I believe, actually was more leaning towards kind of flex support as well, kind of came in to play Lucio for Greece, so there's definitely a lot of flexibility in the backline of Greece as well, so hopefully they'll be able to pivot over to something different. But I do think that, taking the Lucio out on Saravasa, very fascinating.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the character, and I looked down to write my notes down as I always do, and I looked up, I was like, oh, my Emre just disappeared. I forget he turns invisible, which is like, he can't do that in the actual game, but whatever. But yeah, no, to be able to have that flexibility of having Otter be someone that can kind of like do a little bit of flex support, do a little bit of main support. That's honestly a power up. I mean, same thing with Tycho to an extent. She was there playing, not playing Juno during Juno Brig. She was out here playing Brig during that time, right? It's something that you don't really expect from your flex support. So we could see something like that come in from Team Greece, an unexpected, Juno Brig coming through here instead of, the coveted Kiriko Lucio. Some other options I've seen are Baptiste Lucio's, Baptiste, Juno has, Baptiste Iyari, my goodness, has been a very popular backline as of late as well. So there's a couple of different options for our backline to take up, and it depends on what they are just comfortable with at the end of the day. You mentioned it, the best is that Dirt's out. We have Kabi coming in. Likely we're going to see Diva. And if you're Mormer, do you want to mirror that Diva? Do you want to kind of brawl it down on Zarya? Maybe go back over to that other meta, the meta composition of Zarya and Vendetta, possibly. Very big options that's available to us, and we're almost there, Rain. We're almost there. We're like halfway to a Star Vendetta.
We're almost there, but I don't anticipate the Winston making an appearance here for Mormer, but it's not impossible. I know that Mormer does have a strong Winston. It's just not really in the meta right now, especially where Turkey does have Cabby over on this Diva, so you're going to be able to outmaneuver this Winston in the composition, but doors are open and Greece is locked in. This is going to be it. Gelly swapping over onto the Tracer, so it is going to be a similar compositions here, like you mentioned, Wuyong Kiriko backline. It is going to be making an appearance for both of these teams. Lethal over on the Ashe, though, so you're going to have this poke damage to put into Grease.
I'm a little scared though of the Ashe versus Dive, and if you don't have your coach gun, that's a very easy. You're kind of naked to the Winston and this upcoming dive from Gelly and Alex as well. But I might have spoke too soon. Lethal, I apologize. Getting a nice little headshot onto Tycho in the middle of the fight there. Flat IQ comes in with a double kill as well on that Tracer, and then it's a very easy way for Team Turkey to overtake Marketplace, at least for now.
Ooh, okay, yeah, this is going to be a good spot for Turkey to get set up. Where you meant Lethal on this Ashe does want to have some kind of like high ground or something to be able to use that coach gun to get away. Alex, immediate swap off of that Vendetta, is going to move over on to the Sojourn. So a little bit more conventional here. We'll be able to kind of have some really high burst damage kind of compared to that Ashe. It's just a matter of trying to charge up that railgun, which might be a little bit tricky against Cabby's D.Va.
I mean, don't even talk about the D.Va. We gotta talk about this Tracer. Oh my goodness, it's unfortunate because it feels like Flat is just not really being scouted out, not really being kept tabs on. It was technically going to be reserved for Galley to do that, but when you're just able to kind of frag out on this Tracer, I mean, it becomes so much more difficult for Grease to do anything, hence why we're seeing a couple of imperative swaps. Again, talking about Tycho going over to that brig, we have Mormor on Ramontra. We have a very 2024, 2020, early 2025 comp on our hands right now, Rain.
This is just like run down Lethal or run down Farouk. You're trying to find the least mobile target on the side of Turkey, and this Brigida will allow the backline of Greece to survive a little bit more against Flatix, but Gelly trying to put that pressure in, isn't quite able to match.
Easy little tracking. That was butter smooth tracking, by the way. Like, that was just headshot, 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 call it a day. My goodness. A little bit of a mountain to climb here for Gelly to go up against Flat. But in the meantime, we have now gone over to our second objective here, Palace, one of my personal favorites on Saravasa. But who doesn't like all of Saravasa's sub-maps, right, besides Marketplace, of course. So we have the Suzu getting burned out a little bit early from Irmac, but at the very least, you have the opportunity, the cushion of a rush at any moment. But why use rush? We can just put more damage and kill everybody, right? So Bob is there. Mormor found out in a very unfortunate corner of Palace around the fountain. And just like that, we're going to be ending the fight with on a good note here for Team Turkey.
Ooh, all right, yeah, back in control of the point again. Now, Greece with this Ramontra comp might have a little bit of a better time over on Palace now. Not quite as many open spaces, but unfortunately, there's just so much long-range damage to be had between Lethal. And of course, we can't forget Irmac here. Flatix just more or less on cleanup duty, and it's a quick fight win here for Turkey. They're going to extend the percentage on Palace. Flatix lurking, has this pulse bomb ready to go. No D.Va to eat it on the side of Greece.
4 ultimates online here for Turkey. They're in their spawn room. Pulse bomb goes in. It's the OWCS style, ground pulse bomb. Love to see it from Flat, but we have to back out. We have 3 ultimates now. We have a bomb for a secondary release on live. We're going to be walking in with the Tidal Glass first and foremost. Alex tries to slide away, but it's all for naught. Wait a minute. The Blink melee not going to find the kill that Flat was expecting here. So we have an engagement coming in, trying to be seen from Team Greece. Here comes the recycling of the rotation of the cooldowns from that Ramontra. Really well done. But then look at that. Gelly with a Blink melee onto Farouk. Recalls back to safety, and then suddenly you are even. 4v4 here, but one side has one support, the other side has both supports. And speaking of supports, Over the Ray comes in nice and hot from Otters versus the Kitsune Rush. It will be depleted a little bit shorter than the Rush. We're going to layer that with the Rally and the Annihilation. Might be a little bit of an expensive quote-unquote ult fight here, Rain. But you know what? If it's to get the flip here, it's worth it for Greece.
Yeah, that's so true. Now you gotta survive through this Bob. The Annihilation on the point for Mormor, really being fed by that Bob. So you're extending some percentage here, but you only need one more fight win here if you're Turkey. You're at 99%.
We have Alex actually having to go up to the high ground, use the overclock, but we didn't really accommodate for this entryway from Lethal. Double kill for the Ashe player. Then you see Mormor dropping down to the point, trying to hold block for as long as humanly possible, and then just form not forever, unfortunately, not infinite. So that's going to be immediately hindered down, and we have a 2-0 so far. Match point on Saravasa for Team Turkey.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be moving over to Garden for point number 3 here, and Turkey is going to be able to get themselves set up first, and they're also going to have a little bit of a spawn advantage here. Greece have nothing coming into this fight. If you want to try and push this fight, you want to try and get the D.Va bomb out from Cabby so that you can just get ready for the next fight here, but the rotation from Greece is just not quite timed perfectly, and yeah, Otters is going to pay for it.
They really are. Double kill on the back line as well, leaving us with a little bit naked. No support, no healing, no anything to be used here. No utility either. So you leave, you go from the back to the front, which I really like the plays out of Turkey a lot. They're going from the supports over to the DPS, then leaving Mormor kind of dead last more often than not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's literally it. That's how you should play against the Ramattra if you're playing this hyper mobile composition. You know, you're not going to win those front to back fights with the diva. So it really is just kind of aggression onto the back line here for Greece. So Tycho and Otters are just going to have a very hard time kind of staying alive through this. And Turkey, in traditional Turkey style, have pushed up once again, and they are taking fights so far away from where the point is.
And we're going to also use the Tidal Blast in the neutral, a double slam, a double stun onto both Otters and onto Alex, one of which is going to be going down towards to that Tracer once more. Pulsam goes wide, neither of which Tycho or Alex are going to walk into it, thank goodness. And in the midst of that engagement, Gelly finds a kill onto Farouk, leaving Turkey with just Ermac trying to put the weight of the support on their shoulders. And we rotate back to the point here, trying to play a little bit safer for the side of Turkey, knowing, okay, we're down forces, we're waiting for Farouk to come back after the elimination. We have Bob online yet again, though. That's numbers, that's forces, that's damage that that Greece do not want to deal with.
No, and yeah, unfortunately, just too much damage coming through here. Greece maybe not even going to get the touch here. Yeah, the team kill coming through, and that is going to be Turkey picking up Saravasa 3-0, and they are going to set themselves at a match point here in our show match.
They sure are, right? And again, having the mentality of going from Oasis over to Saravasa, it's mostly easy to keep that same mindset, keep that same play style. I loved seeing the Ashe here as well, something that you don't really ever see on Saravasa more specifically, or even really anywhere outside of like your escorts, you know, your Circuit Royales, your Hollywoods, or your hybrids, your Hollywoods as well, you know? So to see the lethal Ashe come out, very much a surprise for, at least for me, on something like Saravasa, but it worked out really, really well. My man said, listen, no Emre, that's fine. I'll get him back the next map.
Yeah, that's right. You won't be able to ban it out a second time if you're Greece, but now if you're Greece, you're also looking at having to do a reverse sweep if you want to take this show match title, and I think it's going to be pretty difficult. Saravasa very, very much went the way of Turkey. I think just they had 2 deaths on the side of Turkey, and they were both onto Farouk on that Wu Yang, so it did get kind of targeted out, the lack of mobility. But heading into the next map, at least Greece will be in control of where we go. We won't be able to go back to a control. We won't be able to go back to a Saravasa. So I think that, you know, of the options that are left, I feel like I got to bring us back to what we were saying kind of between Oasis and Saravasa, is that if you want to slow down with the chaos so much, maybe take us over onto, maybe one of those escort maps to work with, because right now, like these long rotations that Greece is trying to do, you know, on paper, it is exactly what you need to do. You need to kind of scout out, make the rotation, but it's not happening fast enough here. Turkey is catching them out, so maybe take us to a map where you are not going to have those long rotations that you have to make.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. You know, I really do want us to maybe go to something more like escort. I wouldn't want to go hybrid because the odds of being full held there, honestly, not zero by Turkey. That's what I would be afraid of if I was playing on Team Greece at the moment. So going to escort at the very least means you will get cart progression no matter what. You will go somewhere. That's a big thing. But it depends on what map you want to go to when it comes to escort. Junkertown, Route 66, Dorado, Circuit Royale. There's all these. It's again no map pool. It's open map options here, so you can go wherever you want. Gibraltar, if you want to go a little bit of dive, kind of just have a opportunity to play on a brig, a little bit Kirko Lucio again. And wait, hold on, pause. I'm the thinker. Hold on, wait. So I think if we go Gibraltar, right? That is usually a very tracer-centric map because you want your tracer to kind of babysit the car for a little bit. Go Gibraltar, ban tracer. See what happens.
I don't hate it.
Echo, force out a Genji.
Right?
Force out anything else besides this tracer.
Yeah, it's a good point because Flatix has been definitely a thorn in the side of Greece. The Tracer is just able to control so much space, and like you mentioned, the tracking, absolutely incredible. So I do think that could be a nice little option here for Greece. They, of course, will still have to probably deal with the Diva that could come through from Cabby, but I think that it's a good point, right? The Tracer is usually the one that's responsible for pushing that cart. So if you take them to a map where you're probably practicing on that Tracer, you take it out of their hands, could work really nicely. The DPS for the side of Greece are quite flexible. Alex able to play that Genji or even that Echo as well. So I do think it could be a nice idea.
I'm just saying, but it's not gonna quite be Gibraltar that we see here from our show match today. We choose to go over to the beautiful side of Peru. We're going over to Runasapi, baby, and that's gonna be 10 pure minutes of mayhem. Just pure mayhem here for going over to a push map. But I don't hate it. Again, the only thing you had left was push or two styles of payload maps. If you want to go something where you're also gonna get card progression no matter what, you're gonna get something on the board here. Yeah, let's go over Runasapi. Let's go over something that everyone, I would say, really likes this map of all the push maps available.
Yep, totally agree. My personal favorite push map for sure, and I get to watch it a whole lot, so I think that that says something to how much everybody else likes Runasapi as well. We are going to, of course, be having hero bans that come in. I think Runasapi is going to be tough because that Emre is going to be back on the board here. You can't ban that out, and I really do think that Emre is just so strong on these kind of long-range maps, especially that ultimate where, like, there's no fall-off damage. He's just going to be able to kind of shoot at you from however far away he is. Greece, instead of going for the DPS ban, they are going to take the Wuyong off the table here. So targeting out Farouk, despite Farouk being the one that died the most for Turkey on Surabasa.
Still on Farouk? The two death is really, really in our heads right now.
It is.
I like the Wuyong ban though, because it does. I think it's also inadvertently a Kiriko protection. They don't want to really
That's
play
true.
off the Kiriko Lucio. So I think it's a really good a ban at the end of the day, and you might be able to take away an option from Turkey if push comes to shove, right? The Vendetta ban comes in from Greece though. Mind you, they were the ones that played Vendetta a little bit. Sorry, Turkey. Wow, I'm tripping up. Turkey bans out Vendetta to make sure that Alex does not get back on the character. My goodness, I just completely forgot what I was talking about for a second there. But yes, Wuyong, Vendetta banned out on this map. A good ban, honestly, as well. Vendetta's always just a pretty solid, ban at the end of the day. And you already saw it from Greece, so you know that's an option they do have. Let's take it away from them entirely.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we are probably just going to maybe go back over onto the compositions that we saw on Oasis, where maybe not the hazard on Runasapi, but I mean the Emre Tracer, the Lucio Kiriko, it's all right there available for you. And then the hazard could maybe be played, but I'm thinking probably go over onto the Diva. Mormor could potentially try to work with the Ramantra here, but it didn't really work out so well for Greece on the last one because again, when you're playing that Ramantra composition, you have to make these rotations, and making rotations against a team that is just so fast and decisive as Turkey is going to be very, very difficult. So we have some compositions being hovered here. It does look like the Diva and the Lucio Kiriko could make an appearance, but hey, like you mentioned, maybe we get to see it on Gibraltar. It looks like Alex is hovering that Echo.
I'm saying, I was like, someone's gonna play Echo here. I didn't know if it was gonna be Escort or not, but it turns out we do get an Echo, at least for now, as we are counting down the seconds. And yes, we're gonna commit to a Diva mirror with almost like full mirror besides having Lethal no longer on anything besides Emre, of course, as stated, a comfort character for the guy. And then Gelly's back on that Tracer, so you might have a little bit more free range, in my opinion, to play Tracer and not be as... I lied. Then not be as scouted, right? But then you go right up a Diva, and it's like, I'm gonna turn around and melee you, and then that was the end of the fight before it really even began, unfortunately, for Team Greece, and then it turns into a big snowball fight in favor of Turkey.
Yeah, you know, I was right there with you. I'm like, yeah, Gelly on this Tracer is going to have more kind of space to work with. You don't have to worry about trying to match Flatix on the Tracer anymore. So I do think that it's still a good call to keep Gelly on this Tracer. It is just going to have to be a matter of getting set up first, right? You need to kind of scout out where Turkey is playing. The Tracer has to be able to kind of find a lane here, maybe even take Tycho with you so that you have a little bit of support on that angle, the same way that Turkey was playing the Tracer Kiriko over on Surabasa.
You're at 40 meters of progression here. I mean, it's just gonna be a difficult thing to bring it back. Like, yeah, I think Turkey are gonna retreat here at the very least, and Greece have stolen the bot away temporarily, having reset it towards that middle of the objective, middle of Runasapi yet again, but it's being kind of tossed around back and forth like a toy. So Greece are working towards some ultimates, notably the duplicate closest to it, mirroring that between themselves and Flat. But Mormor, once again, kind of scout out first, gets demeched, just have Lethal looking in and not having any fear against either the Echo or the Tracer or the Lucio all over him. And then again, it's a matter of the fact of just rolling over the other side, using all your cooldowns, using all that burst damage, and finishing out the fight strong.
Yeah, if you are Turkey, you are happy to take these fights down main because Lethal on this Emre is going to have more consistent damage than Gelly on this Tracer. So what Greece need right now is they need some angle controls here. I like this little
Oh
fight
wow.
happening, but it ends up being a late kill onto Gelly here. And that's going to be the checkpoint actually picked up by Turkey here. So they're going to have those forward spawns to work with, not to mention a bunch of ults coming online as well. That override protocol, you got to be worried about that if you're Greece.
Override protocol. Oh man, that is like the ultimate you have to look out for the most, and there isn't even a sound barrier to help cushion a little bit. There's nothing from Team Greece. So, and Lethal knows that. Lethal knows there's no way they have anything for this. So we're gonna proc the override protocol. Everyone from Team Greece are trying to kite away into the left side building here, but it's all for naught. A double, triple kill have landed here in favor of Team Turkey, and they also get another D-Mech onto Mormor. Likely gonna leave the D.Va alone for a little bit of a stagger situation. And then, you know, at the end of the day, they're about to clear 100 meters now, pushing into the last stretch of Runasapi.
Just one ultimate use there for Turkey. They're going to have 4 ults to push this to the end. Greece are regrouping here. They do have some ults ready to go, including that sound barrier from Otters. They might have to actually just use that aggressively because they need something to try and find their way into this fight.
Oh, duplicate onto the Kiriko Taiko in a 1v1 against Flat all of a sudden. Then we TP back over, trying to find a continuing rush. Duplicate at the very least. Bomb comes out, so is the beat. There goes Taiko taken down by Airmac. Can we find... Oh, that's 2 Kirikos hitting each other. That's hilarious. Kitchen rush on the field here instead for Team Greece. Can they use it? Can they get anything? You see a duplicate D.Va on the side of Team Greece, but Alex is trying his absolute best to stabilize and stay alive for as long as humanly possible, but it's just not gonna work. Turkey are beaming down the opposition at Mach 5 speeds on this double D.Va composition. Bot has been stalled. Alex cannot find the homing beam onto Lethal. Lethal finds a double kill on the DPS lineup. And now the override protocol in the spawn area, leaving this area to be cleared henceforth for the side of Team Turkey. The Reinhardt is a last-minute resort for the final touch, and it does not come to fruition. It's going to be a big 3-0 win for Team Turkey.
Yeah, just in control of that entire Suravasa map and in the entirety of Runasapi. Yeah, unfortunately for Greece, not quite able to face up to this powerhouse that the Turkey team is. And just fantastic showing from Turkey, yeah, understanding kind of the aggression, the tempo that needs to be made, able to back out of fights. Every time that Greece had a kind of an alt footing to get back into a fight, it's just a disengagement that came through from Turkey and then coming back even stronger into the next one here. So definitely a tough matchup for Greece, but did have some shining moments, I think, especially on map number 1. But it's hard to fight into just kind of the talent that Turkey has on this roster.
No, truly, it's difficult, and I have to give kudos for, you know, even getting a couple of little flips here and there, a little bit of fight wins as well. You know, there were some shining moments for Team Greece, and it's really nice to at least have this look back on, to see your opposition, to see what Europe is going to shape up to be like for the World Cup, right? But I think it's the more exciting thing at the end of the day. It is a show match. It's nothing too serious, nothing too crazy, you know, to see and feel out what's going on with each of these amazing rosters that Europe is offering in the World Cup, and this was no different. But Turkey does get that 3-0 victory, again, with a very talented and very robust roster at their helm, very flexible one at that. So I have to give kudos to Turkey at the end of the day. Here's a little recap of where we've gone from Oasis to Suravasa down over to Runasapi. Both teams making sure to avoid going to any payload maps as much as they humanly possibly can.
We are not concerned about escort. We are not concerned about hybrid here. We're just doing the symmetrical maps, and that's all that we need for the series. But yeah, it's been fun to get to watch this one, and I really do look forward to what Greece is going to kind of learn from this. Right? This is really kind of going to be an important, maybe turning point from them. They had a pretty good match against South Africa, so really kind of getting a feel for just what is the talent of the teams that you're going to go up against in that EMA Conference Cup. There is still some time for them to prepare. That's not going to be until April 17th, I believe. So I do think that Greece has some moments that they can take from this to really kind of prepare and strengthen their defenses for that Conference Cup.
No, I 100% agree with you. It has just been a very, very, very fun time to watch all of our, honestly, all the players play today. And really, that's all we really have for everybody, right? We've gone through the maps. We've gone through, or we did have the bands, of course. There was a Roadhog band and a Sojourn band the very first game. Then Emery, Lucio, then Wu Yang and Vendetta. Just so it's out there and people don't forget that the bands that we did kind of encounter in these 3 map series. And then that's really it. Hopefully more show matches get scheduled. I think there's a couple upcoming in this month. Oh my god, it's April. It's April. There's more upcoming this month in April that will be covered. Hopefully by us, other casters, one of I was gonna say prosovers, producers, and observers, and as well as in partnership with Senju and and Willem. So that being said, shout outs to my production, my observers, my lobby admins, all of that jazz. You guys did absolutely amazing. This is, of course, here is our broadcast crew giving you guys the fun stuff behind the scenes, the fun show matches. And Rain, I think that's all we really have to offer for today.
Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, again, thanks so much to everybody for coming out. I know that Grupo Senju was hosting, it was Iceland versus India show match. So that might be ongoing. You can go check out their Twitch channel if you're hungry for some more Overwatch World Cup show matches. But like Mott said, there will be more to come. So keep your eyes peeled for those announcements. And hopefully we will see you all again very soon.